This presentation will cover 4 topics. Misplaced modifiers, dangling modifiers, parallel structures, passive voice. A modifier is a word, phrase, or clause that describes another part of a sentence. A misplaced modifier is improperly positioned in relation to the word, phrase or clause it is supposed to describe. Neil Armstrong made history as the first man to step on the moon in 1969. In this example, due to the placement of the modifier in 1969, the sentence seems to say that Neil Armstrong was the first man in that particular year to step on the moon. Instead, the modifier should be placed directly next to the clause it relates to. Neil Armstrong made history. In 1969, Neil Armstrong made history as the first man to step on the moon. Neil Armstrong made history in 1969 as the first man to step on the moon. Table of contents: How to fix a misplaced modifier. A misplaced modifier can be easily fixed by positioning the modifier immediately before or immediately after the word or phrase that it is modifying. Misplaced corrected: The waiter presented a steak to the guest that was medium rare. The waiter presented a medium rare steak to the guest. The waiter presented a steak that was medium rare to the guest. Most participants selected a lunch from the menu that was high in sugar. Most participants selected a lunch that was high in sugar from the menu. Most participants selected from the menu a lunch that was high in sugar. She arrived home and fell onto the sofa covered in sweat. Covered in sweat, she arrived home and fell onto the sofa. She arrived home covered in sweat and fell onto the sofa. Despite receiving widespread critical acclaim, box office sales of the film were poor. Despite receiving widespread critical acclaim, the film performed poorly at the box office. Adverb placement: Adverbs like only, just, almost, nearly, and especially can subtly change the meaning of a sentence depending on where they are placed, often resulting in ambiguity or confusion. Pay attention to which word or phrase your adverbs are modifying in order to make your sentences as clear as possible. Adverb placement meaning for the study: Jane only interviewed Japanese speakers. Jane interviewed Japanese speakers and did not take any other action, such as holding focus groups or distributing questionnaires. For the study, Jane interviewed only Japanese speakers. Jane interviewed people who speak Japanese, and not people who speak other languages. Due to the severe concussion, she almost lost all memory of the accident. She was in danger of completely forgetting the accident. Due to the severe concussion, she lost almost all memory of the accident. She forgot most, but not all, of the accident. Ambiguous modifiers: Even if a modifier is placed next to the correct part of the sentence, you need to make sure that it isn't ambiguous. Sometimes a modifier is placed so that it could modify either the words that precede it or the ones that follow it, which makes the meaning of the sentence unclear. The couple agreed during the family dinner they would announce their engagement. Did the couple come to the agreement during dinner? Or will they make the announcement during dinner? The positioning of the modifier during the family dinner creates ambiguity. An ambiguous modifier can be fixed by moving it to another position in the sentence or by rewording to clarify which phrase it is modifying. In many cases, you can use the word that to separate the modifier from the clause that it is not intended to modify. Ambiguous unambiguous: The couple agreed during the family dinner they would announce their engagement. The couple agreed they would announce their engagement during the family dinner. During the family dinner, the couple agreed they would announce their engagement. The couple agreed that during the family dinner they would announce their engagement. I told John when the seminar was over we should study for the upcoming exam. When the seminar was over, I told John we should study for the upcoming exam. I told John we should study for the upcoming exam when the seminar was over. I told John when the seminar was over that we should study for the upcoming exam. Rationale. The examples in this slide illustrate the importance of the modification phrase or word group. The facilitator may ask students to explain the difference in meaning between the two sentences. The first sentence explains, "That dog under that tree bit Carrie, the dog is presently located under the tree." The second sentence indicates that the act of biting Carrie occurred under the tree. Depending on the placement of the modification phrase, under the tree, the meaning of a sentence can change dramatically. While this is a simple example to illustrate the importance of modifying phrases, the facilitator may invite students to imagine the confusion misplaced modifiers can cause in directions, legal documents, or business letters. The facilitator may also invite students to think of other sentences where misplaced modifiers create confusion or ambiguity. Click mouse to advance slide. Example. Occasionally, misplaced modifiers can be used for comic effect, as in this famous example from the comedian Groucho Marx. The facilitator may note that, "in my pajamas," is the modifying phrase in this example. Activity. The facilitator may ask participants to point out the problem with the first sentence. The kitten is opening the can of tuna. Unless the kitten has opposable thumbs, this is an unlikely scenario. The participant may then ask what the modifying phrase is here, opening the can of tuna. This phrase needs to be as close as possible to what it modifies, in this case, Buffy. This slide also offers a process that students can use to help correct misplaced modifiers. The facilitator may wish to work through this process on this example with students or have them work in small groups. One-word modifiers can easily be misplaced. These include almost, even, exactly, hardly, just, merely, nearly, only, scarcely, simply. Misplaced modifier. Modifier in the wrong place in a sentence. Correct placement of modifiers. Modifiers go next to the word or phrase they modify. One-word modifiers go before the word or phrase they modify. Dangling modifiers. Do not sensibly modify anything in their sentence. Modifier is present, but it has nothing to modify. Often occur at the beginning or end of a sentence. Often indicated by an ing verb or a to plus verb phrase. What is the modifier modifying? Having finished dinner, the rugby match was turned on. Remember, modifiers go next to the words or phrases they modify. Name the appropriate doer of the action as the subject of the main clause. Having finished dinner, Jude turned on the rugby match. Place the subject of the action within the dangling modifier. After Jude finished dinner, he turned on the rugby match. Combine the phrase and clause. Jude turned on the rugby match after finishing dinner. How might you correct the following sentence? Playing solitaire on the computer for 3 hours, Michael's paper was not finished. Process. What is the modifier? What does it describe, clarify, or give more detail about? Do you need to insert doer? Where should the modifier be placed? Possible revisions. Playing solitaire on the computer for 3 hours, Michael did not complete his paper. Because Michael played solitaire on the computer for 3 hours, he did not complete his paper. Michael did not complete his paper because he played solitaire on the computer for 3 hours.